YouTubers, and welcome to my channel documenting my F100 build. My name's Fred and this is Rudy. A little backstory on Rudy. Rudy is a 1962 F100 Flareside that originally belonged to a gentleman that lived next to us in Kentucky when I was growing up. So I've known this truck since I was a small boy. Later on, the gentleman gifted the truck to my dad, who had it for several years. He's recently gifted it to me. We recently transported the truck from Kentucky down to Alabama, and she's been down here for about a month now. And that was a great time that I was able to spend with my dad, bringing the truck down here. We had a few little bumps along the road, had a blowout on the trailer, and spent a little bit of time at a tire shop in Columbia, Tennessee, but we made it. So my plans for the truck is to basically resurrect her and get her more streetable, if you will, and drive her on a daily basis. These old trucks are getting pretty popular now with people doing a lot of frame swaps, front end swaps from primarily Crown Victorias, because the dimensions work very well under the frame rails. If you're just swapping out a front end from a Crown Victoria, or the wheelbases on the short beds are almost exactly the same as the wheelbase on the Crown Victorias. So a lot of individuals are doing complete frame swaps on it as well, which is really cool. There's a few channels, if you haven't come across them and you're interested in this kind of thing, out there that's done these. Nathan's Garage is one of them, as well as River City, and Idle Garage is another that comes to mind. And I'm kind of new at this. This is going to be probably my first ever YouTube post. So if I can figure out a way to put those links in my blog, I'll do that. So you need to check those out if you haven't already, because those individuals are super talented and they're doing a fantastic job. I've learned a lot from them and got some ideas, but I've never run across any blogs that did this swap with or a full frame swap with a Flareside. So that's going to be one of my intentions of doing this, of putting this out there, is hopefully someone else will kind of see my successes and my failures as I try to make this happen. But hopefully it'll work if that's the direction I decide to go. I haven't completely decided. This is the first day of me kind of documenting this. It's actually Father's Day 2017. It's a pretty warm day here in Alabama. We just recently had a storm come through about 3 days ago and blew a sizable sweet gum down out of my yard and actually blew it onto this truck. So we ended up having to cut the truck out from under the tree, and I had a lot of friends come by. My brother-in-law Matt came over and helped me cut the tree up. Thanks, Matt, appreciate it, as well as neighbor Mitch that helped me as well, and some other folks that came and lent a hand. So she didn't sustain too much damage, just a little bit of damage on the cab corner, I think you can see right here, and then down the bed rail. But that's the kind of thing that gives these old trucks character, and that they can tell a story. But again, this is a 62 F100. It's currently sporting a anodized grill out of a 64 custom cab that my dad had at one point, and put that grill in this truck. It looks pretty good, I think, so I'll probably keep that in there. But I grew up around these trucks, and my dad had a couple of them at various times, and I remember being in undergraduate at the University of Kentucky, and I drove a 64 F100 long bed for a while, and I really enjoyed that truck. I've always kind of felt like I was kind of a Chevy man at heart, but when it comes to pickup trucks, you know, the Fords are tough to beat. So just myself, a bit of a shade tree mechanic. I don't have a lot of experience. I don't have a lot of experience with welding and a lot of other skills that I'm kind of going to have to learn as I go. But that's kind of the fun in doing these is kind of learning new skills as we build these trucks. So, and hopefully you'll tune into subsequent episodes as I kind of work through this. So, thanks for watching. If you got any comments, put them down in the blog, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks. Okay, so day one of the deconstruction is about to wrap up. As you can see, I've got the bed off, and that went pretty straightforward. There's a fair amount of rust at the bottom of the fenders, typical places for the Flareside fenders to rust. Tailgate got quite a bit of rust in it as well, but those can be replaced. Didn't have a lot of difficulties other than the bolts that bolt down through the frame, through the bed and into the frame are kind of unique, I think, to the Flaresides. I'm not sure if the regular steel beds for the regular style side beds have that type of bolt. It's a large-headed bolt that has a square center in it, or square socket, that looks like it will accept a 1/4 inch ratchet directly. Since it's square, but I think mine was fairly rusted, and there's a lot of debris that had been sitting down in there for years and years, and so those were a little bit larger than a 1/4 size socket, and so they were just turning on me. So what I ended up having to do was just put a wrench on the nut underneath the frame because they wanted to spin as I drilled them out. So I just drilled them straight through that little square socket head with a 1/2 inch drill bit, and that worked really well. Within about 10 minutes I had all 6 of them out. The 2 on the very back have traditional bolt heads because it's kind of under the frame support, and those come off very, very easily. So next up would be front bumper, hood, doghouse, taking all of that off because I want to leave the cab on the frame as long as I can until I start getting some sheet metal in. There's a lot of corrosion in the floor of this cab. The rocker panels, the steps are really corroded. The front cab mounts are just completely gone. The front of the cab is actually sitting on 2x4s on top of the frame. So it's going to need a lot of fab work, a lot of new metal to put in the floor. So that's going to be kind of my first focus as far as kind of getting the cab and everything, all the corrosion cut out, and getting new metal put in the floor, getting that nice and solid. So then again, I can decide if I'm going to set the cab off and stick with this frame and go with a Crown Vic just front end on this frame, or if I'm going to set the cab completely on a Crown Vic frame, do a complete frame swap. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still looking for a car, and we'll see what we've got once I find that, what I got to work with, and I'll make that call at that point. But anyway, so made a good bit of progress. I'm kind of hot and nasty and dirty and smelly, but again, it is Father's Day today, so I'm going to knock off and spend some time with the family and enjoy the rest of my day, have a cold beer. So I hope you do the same, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.